Hello, welcome to the Collider Star Wars Rebels recap show. I'm your host, David Griffin. If you've never watched one of our recap shows, what are you doing? What else are you doing right now? You should be watching our recap shows. We talk about what we loved about the episode, what we didn't like. Today we're talking specifically about Star Wars Rebels. We're talking about Season 2. This is Episode 13, not including Siege of Lothal. Episode 13, The Call, Lions, Tigers, and Space Whales. Oh my. Joining me here on my right,
Christian Harloff here from, there's my camera, Christian Harloff from Jedi Council, and we are talking Rebels, and we're talking about the Space Whales. Here it comes, Space Whale episode.
Captain, there be whales here. It's kind of like Star Trek The Voyage Home. If you've seen that, you know about whales. We have Space Whales here. Interesting episode. We're still waiting to get to the things that we've seen in the trailer. We haven't gotten to the meat yet, but we're getting close. Just look at the list. We have, including the hour-long finale, maybe 6 episodes left, 6 or 7 episodes left. We're almost there. But we have Space Whales. We have hyperspace whales. Christian, positives about The Call. What do you think?
Positives are Ezra. This dude is powerful, like really powerful, and even more so than Kanan. There are so many rumors flying about who he's going to wind up being, and we saw in the trailer that he's eventually going to be trained by Darth Maul. This dude, the fact that he can hear these things coming, nobody else does. Kanan has no idea what he's talking about. He can feel the Force in what are the name of the space whales? I forget the name.
I forgot the name of
but the creatures that are kind of space whales. But he just there's something with him. I liked how tuned in he was because I think this sets up. I don't think this was a throwaway episode at all. I think that this totally is going to play into what Ezra can do with his Force abilities. I really did enjoy that because I thought I was going to get tired of the fact that the entire episode was just about the damn whales. But it wasn't, because there was so much more than that, because it really took us into his abilities. I thought that it also, I always love when they work together as a team and when they put together these missions and they had to get the fuel. It was very Star Wars to me that they had to do that particular mission. This show is definitely not for kids in all the way through, because they're blasting dudes left and right, just destroying the Rodians right out of
Ezra pushes a guy off the side, and that guy died. Yeah, there's no parachute.
The space whales are eating people. I mean, it's like a full so all that stuff I definitely enjoyed. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I agree with you, Christian. I think it's really important. I think we forget sometimes that Ezra's been so in tune with animals throughout the last these 2 seasons that we've seen. Yeah. Remember season 1, he had the encounter with, I forgot what the creatures were, but he kind of went dark side and summoned up the big dad, like the big one, and went kind of dark side. Also, a couple episodes ago, before he found out about the fate of his parents, he had that dream or sequence where he found the other animal that he was chasing around, kind of like a cat, that he was chasing around. So he is very in tune with animals. I think this is going to play a larger role later down the road. Now, whether that leads him down a dark path, which he doesn't seem like he's going that way. I mean, after he seems like he's dealt with the death of his parents. Okay,
yeah, you and Tiffany are on the opposite side. I know he's definitely going dark side.
Okay, he's definitely going dark side. So if he does, I mean, do we think that that's going to play a part in it? His connection with animals, or are we just trying to? Are they just trying to show how strong he actually is?
I think it's more that. I think it's more them trying to show exactly how strong he is. And I think that it's also, that's why I understand where you and Tiffany are coming from in regards to, we've been down this path already with Anakin. But, and I think you brought this up, Anakin, I believe in one of the comics.
Yeah, so I was going to comment on that. Yeah. So the new there's a new Star Wars Marvel book out now. I think it's called Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. Issue 2 just came out recently, and it was cool that there was a part when there's this, I don't know, these horrible monster looking, something like a Guillermo del Toro movie, creatures, and Obi-Wan tells Anakin, like, reach out with your mind, try to connect with them, and he tries. We know Anakin's powerful. His metachlorian count is high, folks. We know it's high.
Don't you talk about metachlorians?
That's high. That's canon. That's in the movies. That's canon. No, so we know he's good, and he couldn't connect with them. And Obi-Wan said, look, not everybody gets them the first try. You got to work on it. And Anakin said, Master, I would work on this forever. He's like, I know, but we need to move on to the next thing. You'll get it down the road. Ezra gets it right away. Yeah. So we don't talk about metachlorians anymore, but we can tell Ezra's talented.
Yeah, there are certain things that certain Jedi are more powerful in than others, and he certainly is. And I think that, look, there's a rumor going around that he might eventually turn out to be Benicio del Toro's character in Episode 8, or that he might actually be Snoke. I don't happen to think any one of those is true. I think that his story is going to begin and end in Rebels, but I also think that he's going to be the tragic story of the show, and I think that this shows kind of why. They're going to go about 4 or 5 seasons. This is the 2nd season and really gives us an insight into who he is, but I also think that all the great stuff, the cool stuff we saw in the trailer with him and Maul. I think all that stuff is going to be the season finale.
Really? Okay, they're saving that season finale. Talking to John Campea, he's obviously not here right now, but I was talking to him yesterday when we were about to shoot the Flash recap show, and he said that he's like, Ezra's going to die. Now, I asked him like how soon that was, and he wasn't sure, but do you think that's going to be sooner than later?
No.
Or if that would happen at the end?
They're holding out on him for a little bit because I think that's going to be the tragic story of how he and Kanan come to be. Now, whether or not Kanan goes on the run after he has to kill his Padawan, or who knows. Or but I also think, and I said it last week, I think Zeb's the first one to go.
That was the first one to go. That was too bad because that was such a good episode we had with Zeb last week. That's why his story.
That's why I think he's going to be the first.
Because it's done.
To go.
His story's done.
I think that there's not too much more to tell about him, and I think that it serves the story if he does go, because I think that will really it could send Ezra down the dark path a little bit more. It certainly could piss off Kanan and the rest of the crew, and they haven't taken a big hit yet. Everything's been kind of, all right, we get into a little bit of trouble. But
they've lost some battles, but overall they're still together.
They haven't had any loss yet. And when we talked to Freddie Prinze Jr. on Jedi Council, he kind of hinted that Kanan's going to be tested. I wouldn't be surprised if Zeb dies by the end of the season.
Wow. Okay, so we might lose Zeb. I want to still focus on some of the positives. I really enjoyed the design of the space whales. I thought they looked cool. I loved, especially, of course, when they were going into hyperspace with their tail. Like, kind of had like the flashing lights, and then when they went down in the gas, their skin changed. They were more colorful. I guess they, all fed up and ready to go, almost like migrating whales in real life. Going to where the feeding grounds are. They travel great distances, so it was pretty cool. I thought, and of course we know that Ezra cares for animals, but I thought that was pretty cool. I like the design of the whales.
I love the design of the whales. I love the sound of the whales, and it just shows you what you can do in animation that you can't do in film. Because Space Whales isn't going to play in a film, but it worked in this, and it did, and like all those things of the way that they were able to swim in the gas, and then even when Ezra was connecting with the one whale, and then they kind of went on the attack, and everything moved very fluid the entire episode. So because when they first appeared, I'm like, okay, how long? Because there was some episodes. Look, I love the Clone Wars series very much, but there were some episodes of Clone Wars, like the shark people and all that, that it was just like, oh man,
the hammerhead,
it's like, where are we going with this? But then this started, I'm like, okay, is the whole episode going to be space whales? And when it was, I was pleasantly surprised.
I think it's helped. I think sometimes when a show is connected to a film or a franchise like Star Wars or a Marvel series, like you have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on television, is connected to the cinematic universe in a way, because stuff happens. Let's say Thor wrecks London, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up like the next day, like, oh, we got to go see what's going on in London. Right. So I think that can sometimes limit a show's creativity, but I feel like with Star Wars Rebels, unlike Clone Wars, it's giving it more focus.
Yeah.
Because they have to stay on point, because we have this all new canon coming up, all this new stories, new books, new movies, new video games, and they have to stay on point because it's so early and they can't afford to fail.
No, and they're on a timeline because they're only about 2 or 3 years away from the events of A New Hope.
Right.
And they're going to get even shorter of a timeline once Rogue One comes out, because Rogue One's about, what, a year before Episode 4?
And we just learned, I think, today or yesterday, that Episode 8 production has officially started.
Yeah, so I mean, but those particular events, because they're so close to it, like, because they're eventually, like, you would assume that by the time, look at where we are right now. We're in what is it, February of 2016. By the time we're in March 2016, Rogue One will have already come out. 17. Rogue One will already have come out, and season 3 of Rebels will be close to being done.
Right.
I am going to guarantee that the events of Rogue One and Rebels coincide by that point. They have to, even beforehand, because we know what's going to happen, and I think that they're going to line up, and I think something's going to happen, because we're going to have to know what happens to some of those characters by the time Rogue One rolls around.
So you're predicting that could we see one of these characters from Rebels in Rogue One as a cameo, maybe?
Maybe a cameo, certainly a mention. I think would be smart to mention for the Rebels fans out there. I don't think that all Rogue One people who are going to see the film are going to know Rebels.
Right. That's true.
So it's not crucial. It would certainly be good to help the universe, and they've been implementing more canon characters in a lot of things too, and even this is the way that we've been doing stuff with the books and comics, and the way that they even did with the Kanan comic and the Rebels episode. I'd like to see that kind of happen with the feature films.
So we like the call, but there's always a couple of things that we don't like about it. Christian, what were some weaknesses for this week's episode?
I think that I'm always the guy that's saying give the aliens the alien subtitles. Like when the one miner comes out and he's like, "Hey, so the space files, shoot them down." It's like just give them an alien voice.
I love the Star Wars accents.
They're alien voice. Just give me alien voice to some subtitles. That's all. That's it. Very very minor gripes this week. I think that also. I think Hera and Sabine were a little subdued. Would like to see them do a little bit more. And Zeb, I'm okay being a little bit more on the sideline because he had that full episode last week. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, for me, it's not necessarily about the episode. It's just the fact that I know that there's so much more of the meat, like we were saying, and we haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
Nothing against this episode. We got some cool tidbits, but I'm done with tidbits right now.
Right.
I'm done with tidbits.
You want your dessert.
I want the thread.
You've had the appetizer. You've had your dinner. You're ready for the dessert.
Give me the stuff that I'm going to say from now on. You know, let's start getting to the juice. I know that Champ Syndulla is coming back. That's Hera's father, and I think that's even this week coming up. So. But
yeah, next week's episode I think it's called Homecoming.
So it makes sense.
So that sounds about right. We got to see him in Lords of the Sith. Awesome book. I know that's one of probably your favorites of the new.
I would say it's just a little bit above Lost Stars, but yeah.
I think okay. So all right. I guess let's just go right into it. Though. Talk about weaknesses. Talk about predictions. Christian, do you think
your weaknesses?
Weaknesses for me, I agree. I think the ladies get a little bit sidelined sometimes. We did get that great episode a few episodes back with Sabine. Of course, Hera getting banged up. But I feel like if there's a character that's sidelined, it's usually the girls. I think they take the biggest fall. We don't get to see them as much. And again, it's just not enough time. We have 22, 23 minutes with the commercials.
Well, Sabine and Hera gotten a lot of love this season.
They have, yeah. I mean, we got that whole Sabine episode we got to see. But I still think her Mandalorian story was rushed, especially when she revealed that she's descended from Death Watch.
But it looks like they're coming back.
They're gonna,
some more.
Come back. I want to see some more of that. I want to learn more about Hera. I love my favorite episode with her was the B-Wing episode. Seeing her fly on about the B-Wing. That was really cool.
Well,
so
it looks like, because it looks like everybody's kind of gotten their own, like 2 episodes at this point.
Yeah.
Sabine's gotten 2.
Yep.
Hera's gotten that 1, but it looks like with her dad coming back, she's going to get a 2nd.
Right.
And you always kind of have to focus. The ones who get some more of the screen time is going to be Kanan and Ezra, obviously,
right? Yeah.
Because
they're the leads.
Yeah, and they're the Jedi.
Yeah, the Jedi. Yeah.
So the other thing I want to see is where the hell is Palpatine? We heard his voice.
Yeah.
We heard his voice. I don't think he's going to show up in this season, but we've heard his voice. Are we going to see him again? When's Vader coming back? You know, I know that he pops in because we've seen him in the trailer.
Yep. Haven't seen the
Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors in a little bit.
I think that they're all coming. Like I feel like after this episode with Hera and her dad, I think that the storylines are going to start picking up, and we're going to start getting a lot of the juice.
I think the trailer was a good and a bad thing. One, it whet our appetites. We're so excited to see. I think all of you have been talking about that. Every time I look in the comments, there's always talk of what we saw in the trailer. We want to see it. So I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. One, it's making me impatient, but on a positive note, I know that it is coming. I know we're going to get those scenes, so that just kind of gets me excited more. So, Christian, do you have any predictions? So, like, when Cham, what role is Cham going to play? Is he just going to be a mentor, just have a conversation? No. We're going to see some friction between Hera and her father?
I don't think it's going to be friction, but I think I said this last week or the week before. If you're familiar with Lords of the Sith, it's really his story. It really is, and he's kind of like the first guy to really step up against the Empire, and he started his own rebellion. That doesn't mean that he's part of the rebellion that we know. Right. So he might have his own agenda, and that's not to say that he's a bad guy, and he's not a pirate. Like, you know, what's his face?
Oh, Hondo.
Hondo. He's not a pirate like Hondo, but he's got his own agenda. I think that he's going to have different political views from his daughter, and I think that whatever he's coming to do, I don't think it's going to be on the same wavelength as are Rebels, but I think that he's a fascinating character. He's great in Lords of the Sith. I would like to see some of the events of Lords of the Sith referenced. Dave Filoni has certainly made a lot of references and brought out a lot of stuff in past stuff that's Legends, and he's also pulled stuff from canon that is happening. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't say anything. So I think that that's going to be his role. He's got his own mission.
Because I think too, what we learned if you've read Lord of the Sith, and I don't want to spoil too much from the book, but Lords of the Sith, he's seems to be more focused on his people as opposed to Hera and Kanan, who are focusing on the whole galaxy,
right?
Or everybody. Where I think he's focused on his planet, his people, his race,
and he was like that in the Clone Wars too.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be interesting to see how they. Maybe he'll go to her side, maybe not. We'll see how that plays out. I guess.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, especially after reading Lords of the Sith, I think he's going to be on his own thing. He's a good guy. He's he's a good father, and he's a great leader.
Yeah,
but I just think his agenda is different.
I'm still holding to the hope. I think it's going to happen in season 3 for sure. But I'm still holding on to get a glimpse of Obi-Wan. Star Wars comics, they keep doing. I think they've got our second issue dedicated just to Obi-Wan. Luke right now in the comics has this Obi-Wan's journal.
Yeah.
And he'll read out of the journal, and then it'll go to this, a sequence or a full issue of him going off on an adventure with Obi-Wan. So I hope that we get one of those adventures with Obi-Wan. Maybe they have to go to Tatooine for some reason or something like that. They have a pit stop. I'd love to see that.
The only thing is that they can't call him Obi-Wan.
No, that's right. Old Ben.
They just call him Ben.
Ben.
I mean,
Old Ben, yeah.
I think he'll show up eventually. I think you got a better shot of seeing a Han Solo cameo.
Okay.
Or you got a better shot of seeing Leia again in season 3. I don't know if I necessarily want to see Ben Kenobi.
Right.
If I see him,
you're fine to seeing him in the comics. That's fine. It's enough.
Because we're by where we are in the timeline of Rebels. We're way past that timeline that you're talking about in the comics.
Right. So about 15 years,
something like that. Because Luke's a little kid, so that's why I'm really cool. I'm cool with watching all that stuff because it's him learning. By the time we get to that, you start to cross into tricky water because it's a matter of don't mess with the mythology that was there before. Don't start retconning stuff, and you got to remember to. And they've been great at this. They've been great. I'm sure they'll call him Old Ben, and maybe there's an issue. There could be something. There could be an episode to where maybe someone gets stranded on Tatooine and doesn't know it's Ben Kenobi.
Right. Maybe he helps that person
and he maybe
out.
helps him. Similar to what happened with Leia.
Right.
And that would be cool. I'd be all right with that. You just got to be careful. I think that what for me is the Darth Maul stuff.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I have I have a bad feeling about this. I think that Darth Maul, that call me old master, that will be the season finale.
Do you think Obi-Wan fights the old master?
No. I don't think Obi-Wan's
going to fight him. I was going too far.
No. If there's, I still hope to see it. I mean, if there's he's kind of old and decrepit now, it looks like, but I still was.
I wonder what his leg situation's looking like.
Oh,
he was a spider at one point, then he had the two.
I'm sure he's just got the mechanical
legs. Yeah. So that's what we thought of this week's episode. The call. What did you think about space whales? I like space whales. Look pretty cool. Hyperspace space whales. They can go into hyperspace. Animals have hyperspace capabilities. How is that even possible?
Gas, man, gas.
This is a Star Wars. This is a galaxy far, far away.
I got hyperspace after I eat Taco Bell.
Yeah, that'll do it. It doesn't always settle right, if you know what I'm saying. But as always, you can find us right here on Collider Video for more Rebels news. Christian, of course, Christian. I want to give it to you. Where can people find you? You have an awesome show here on Collider.
Well, obviously on Movie Talk, you find me there, and you find me on Collider Jedi Council every Thursday. Make sure you follow me at Collider. Well, yeah, find me on Collider or at Christian Harloff on Twitter and Instagram. But make sure you hashtag Collider Jedi Council to get your questions on the air.
Similar with me, I'm doing some recap shows, doing the Flash recap show, hashtag Collider Flash. So you want questions on there? I'll be actually guest starring on Arrow next week, Collider Arrow recap show. So I'll be on there. Look for me there. But including Star Wars Rebels, Christian and I, hopefully Mr. John Camp himself, will be back next week to talk to you more about Star Wars Rebels.